Something you long believed to be true but realized wasn't.
Well, as one of the main opponents of the Illuminati, I always wanted to know what information they had that we didn't.
Now we finally have an update on the drowning death of Malcolm-Jamal Warner. Now, according to ABC7, they stated that Malcolm-Jamal Warner had drowned while he was on vacation in Costa Rica. Now, the article goes on to say that Warner had drowned off the coast of Costa Rica on Sunday.
Life, it's fragile, and in the blink of an eye,
You never know.
you never know. So speaking of legacy, what do you hope that your legacy is going to be?
There is part of me that I will be able to leave this earth, knowing and people knowing that I was a good person.
We say we value integrity until it stops being loud enough for us to notice. Malcolm-Jamal Warner lived like that, steady, thoughtful, allergic to clowning himself for a quick applause line. Then one summer afternoon in Costa Rica, a rip current pulled him away from the shoreline and toward a silence he never deserved. The tributes came flooding in after that. Beautiful words from colleagues, glossy headlines from outlets that hardly mentioned him in recent years. It was love, sure. It was also convenient. The question that won't leave me alone is simple. If a man refuses the costume and still builds a life with dignity, why do we only call him a legend when he can't hear us? On July 20th, 2025, he was at Playa Cocles in Limón, a beach so gorgeous you'd swear the ocean had been retouched. The water looked calm enough to trust. Anyone who knows tropical coastlines knows how deceiving that can be. Currents that hide under the surface and change direction without warning. He had his 8-year-old daughter with him. Surfers nearby saw trouble fast, and one of them pulled her out to safety. First responders tried what they could, but the tide had already made its decision. The cause was ruled an accidental drowning. It's a simple phrase for something that doesn't feel simple at all. There's a reason beach signs diagram how to slip a rip. Go sideways, not against it. That's the part that haunts you later. How the body wants to fight straight back, and how survival asks you to move a different way entirely.
Rican Beach, where officials say a dangerous rip current swept away Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the Cosby Show star, drowning in secluded paradise on Sunday.
What makes that beach so treacherous?
You know, it's similar to other beaches where there are strong rip currents that are deceiving.
Mike Geist helps run a volunteer lifeguard organization here. He says while no lifeguards were on duty that day, Geist's friend, who happens to be a trained lifeguard, was there to surf and discovered Warner unresponsive in the water. Costa Rica's Red Cross says they were able to rescue another man alive who was taken to a clinic in critical condition.
Rica, Jesse, officials say Warner's autopsy is now complete.
It was completed this morning, according to authorities, Tom, and they say that it confirmed that Warner's drowning death was, in fact, an accident.
It would be easy to freeze the story there, at the shoreline. I don't want to do that. Malcolm's life was much larger than his final minutes. And if you listen closely to the way he moved, you hear a pattern. He swam sideways a lot. When the current told him, push directly into fame, he found an angle and made a different choice. That's why, when the obit summarized him as Theo from The Cosby Show, it felt true and not true at the same time. Yes, he was Theo, and he wore that chapter with gratitude. But after the studio lights dimmed, he did the less photogenic work. Directing, writing, spoken word, music. He was part of a Grammy-winning performance in 2015 alongside the Robert Glasper Experiment and Layla Hathaway. The sort of collaboration that rewards you for listening with your eyes closed. He acted in dramas that respected adult intelligence, showed up behind the camera for stories that didn't pander, and co-hosted a podcast, Not All Hood, dedicated to breaking the lazy idea that black life can be reduced to one note. None of that trends fast. All of that lasts. There's a thread that runs through his choices. He refused certain roles, not because he lacked range, but because he had a boundary. He wrote and spoke plainly about the gatekeeping baked into television and the way stereotypes survive even when the characters are given degrees in corner offices. If a scene asked him to put on a dress and pratfall his way into a cheap laugh, or flatten himself into a caricature of a man, he walked away. People pretend those decisions are easy. They're not. It's much simpler to say yes, take the check, and let the algorithm show you to people who were never looking for you in the first place. Malcolm didn't do that. He aimed for something more grown, representing black men as human beings with gravity, tenderness, humor that doesn't require self-erasure. He tried to make the work and the image line up. Here's where Katt Williams enters the frame, not as judge and jury, but as a lens. For years,
I don't care how people feel about the ritual. It's about does following the ritual work. Yeah. And so you can fool yourself into thinking there isn't one, but the evidence will be clear. So like when I be like, oh, these guys are wearing dresses. Everybody's like, oh, he keeps talking about people wearing dresses. No, it's not.
It's a weird thing.
It's not like that. Look at it from a different way. Look at it. Show me one person that ever wore a dress in Hollywood unsuccessfully.
Williams has argued that if you don't play along with certain industry expectations, call them rituals, call them hoops, you get sidelined. Maybe not publicly, maybe not with a scandal. You just stop being invited to the rooms where the next 10 years are cast. That's his claim, and he says it with the energy of a man who's paid for his refusal. You don't have to buy every piece of that to feel the weight of the pattern. Some artists go louder precisely by making themselves smaller, and the system rewards them with billboards. Others, like Malcolm, say no to the shrinking, and the spotlight drifts. Whether you chalk that up to conspiracy or to cautious executives, the effect looks the same from the outside. Principled artists become quiet, and quiet gets mistaken for gone. The irony is that Malcolm was never chasing gone viral moments anyway. He was chasing coherence. When you hear him talk about fatherhood, you notice it immediately. No performance, no pose. He described pulling his daughter into the world with his own hands, then spending the next years learning how to soften without losing his standards. He didn't agitate for attention. He built a house the long way. He made music that respected the ear. He wrote the kind of thoughts that don't need all caps. He offered criticism within the culture without needing to turn it into a takedown. He could talk about the language in rap, what we normalize, what we excuse, and do it without acting like he was above anyone. You don't see that balance often. The camera likes extremes. And then the tributes. If you've lived long enough, you know the wave. It comes after a loss, because that's when we're permitted to say the quiet admiration out loud. Friends reminisced about his quiet leadership on sets. Colleagues remembered the way he kept the temperature low and the standards high. Fans discovered the later work and said, I didn't know he did all this. Media outlets rushed to assemble retrospectives, many of them thoughtful, some of them a little too polished. This is not a complaint about grief. People loved him. They meant it. It's a question about timing. Why is it so rare for the industry to celebrate the untrendy virtues?
So even before conception, we were very clear about it. And I know that I needed a girl first to kind of ease me into it, because I have a pretty good idea of what kind of father I would be. Mm-hmm. So I needed a girl to kind of, slow me down and warm and soften me up, if you will. So for me, raising my daughter, I came into fatherhood already with a certain maturity and certain understanding of male-female dynamics. And with a girl, all of that starts with father. So I've always, since I literally pulled her out of my wife.
Patience, integrity, dignity, while they're being practiced. Why do we prefer to crown the person after he can't complicate our narrative with a new choice? Part of the answer is incentives, and incentives are not a conspiracy. They're math. Executives get paid to manage risk. Audiences get trained by repetition. Algorithms reward the shortest bridge between provocation and payoff. In that environment, stereotypes are cheap currency because they cash out fast. Depth asks you to wait. Nuance is a harder sell in a pitch meeting. Who is the target demo? What's the comparable title? How do we package this person? If you keep refusing to become a product that fits the shelf, you will be honored in private and omitted in public. That omission doesn't feel like a scandal. It feels like silence. And silence is easy to sell as irrelevance. But irrelevance is not the same as obscurity. And obscurity is not the same as failure. The thing about men like Malcolm is that they make their lives legible to the people who matter most. The family who knows what he was like on the quiet days. The collaborators who see how he handles a note he disagrees with. The audience who finds the work late and says, "This feels like oxygen." There is a reason the tributes felt so unanimous. He wasn't perfect, nobody is, but he was consistent. He didn't sprint toward whatever was loudest. He walked toward what was right for him and kept going.
These are the first things we saw when we pulled up to the beach. Signs in Spanish and English warning people about potentially hazardous conditions. This sign even giving a roadmap for how to escape a rip current.
There should be a moratorium on both of those words in hip hop because it's low-lying fruit. It's so easy. Everybody fucking does it to the point that it's corny. Like there are MCs who I love, who I cannot listen to anymore because I love J. Cole. But I had to stop listening to J. Cole because I got tired of hearing nigga and bitch
as much
every 2 sentences because he's proven himself to be such a incredible lyricist.
That you think it's just too low-hanging fruit for him to use those words.
I feel like
the day in Costa Rica sits inside that larger story, like a final metaphor I wish we didn't have. Sometimes fighting straight back is the worst way to survive a pull. Sometimes the right move looks sideways from the beach. That's what he did in his career, over and over. Refused the direct current of easy attention and navigated towards something quieter and more durable. It cost him heat. It gave him a life. If our culture had better memory, we would be able to honor that while a man is still here to feel it. Now, about Katt Williams' lens. It's powerful because it explains a certain kind of absence. Why a person who refuses the costume might stop appearing in the places that distribute fame. It's also limited because the world is messy and great artists make complicated choices. There are performers who put on the outrageous outfit and still keep their soul. There are executives who take real risks and shepherd work with depth. There are cycles where stereotypes loosen a little and then creep back in under new names. I don't want to flatten the landscape. I want to sharpen the question. If the system truly values range and authenticity, why does it so often require a eulogy before it offers a spotlight? If our praise is honest, why does it arrive like a brand campaign? I keep thinking about the way he talked about images. Who gets to build them? Who gets to approve them? Who profits when a community's self-portrait is simplified for mass consumption? He cared about that not in the abstract, but in the daily grind of saying no to work that didn't match his standard. You don't see those decisions. You feel their residue later. You feel it when a black father speaks from a screen without apology or punchline. You feel it when a scene just lets a man be tender without turning it into a joke.
For the title is combating the narrative of black life, black culture that the media focuses on. And
that we're all one thing.
Yeah, and the whole concept is, we're not all hood. The black community is not a monolith.
You feel it when the camera gives the character room to be incomplete, to be learning, to be loved. That's the part one hope we keep. The industry will keep doing its math. The rest of us can change the inputs. Give the slow work your attention before it's packaged as a memorial. Share the project that refuses the easy laugh. Show up for the artist who hasn't been trending in a minute. Write the comment that says, "I see what you're trying to do," and mean it. That is not sentimental advice. It's practical. If you want different stories, reward the people who tell them while they can still cash the check. I also think about his daughter, who didn't ask to be a symbol of anything and doesn't need to be. Someday she'll be old enough to understand the long shape of her father's choices. She won't measure him by billboards. She'll measure him by the ordinary days. What he listened to, what he refused, who he became in rooms without cameras. The rest of us can do some version of that with the artists we admire. Yes, talk about the hits, but pay attention to the craft, the boundaries, the insistence on being treated like a person first. People will argue about the Williams framing forever. Some will hear rituals and think it's code for paranoia. Others will hear it and nod because it matches their own bruises. I'm not here to decide that for you. I am here to say that Malcolm's life is legible without any secret handshake. You can see what he valued by looking at what he turned down. You can see where he was headed by listening to the projects he said yes to. You can see what mattered by noticing who felt safe around him. In a business that rewards volume, he used tone. In a culture that mistakes noise for relevance, he was relevant exactly where it counts.
Some of us make choices. I think it's not a biggest choice for others. I'm saying at the end of the day, Kevin doesn't have to worry about what people are going to say about him wearing a dress because of the long line of dress-wearing people before him. So now we had Big Mama's house 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. I've never seen Medea in a pantsuit. I think she wears dresses. So now I'm saying, why are we picking on poor little Kevin Hart? Because it was his turn next. Some of us are against the Illuminati, and we are against the Illuminati at our own detriment. When people are against the Illuminati, then they get punched in the face all the time. The press hates them. Nobody likes them. End quote.
We all love Dave Chappelle.
Exactly. Dave Chappelle has never been a part of the Illuminati. They don't want him or me or people like us.
There's a quiet bravery in refusing to humiliate yourself for a larger audience. I don't say that to shame anyone who chose differently. We're all navigating currents we don't control. I say it to put proper weight on what he did. To be a working actor after childhood fame is hard. To be one who keeps his compass and resists cartoon versions of himself is rarer. To be that, and a musician, a poet, a creative partner who adds depth instead of removing it, requires a spine and a softness we don't often celebrate until the montage rolls. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, and you can join me if it feels right. I'm going to look up the late period work that never made it into my feed and sit with it. I'm going to recommend something without apologizing for its lack of drama. I'm going to remember that being underrated isn't a personality trait. It's a distribution failure. Then I'm going to hold our platforms to a better standard by giving attention to people who are building slow and building well. None of that changes what happened in Costa Rica, but it does change what we spotlight tomorrow. If you got this far, I think you already understand the heart of the matter. The man didn't fall off.
There has never been a person that has been parodied 9 times on Saturday Night Live and yet never been invited other than me. I, at this point, take it as a badge of honor that they don't fuck with me. A lot of times when people are doing an impression of you, they're really showing you how they feel about you. You know what I mean? So for Saturday Night Live to have an impression of me and have a woman do that means they think I'm a bitch. And I understand that that's what they're saying when they do that. I understand how the game goes, and I understand that if you love me, I know why you do. And if you don't with me, I understand why.
He stepped aside. The culture that claims it wants grown stories let him step into the shade and didn't follow. That's on us more than it's on any shadowy committee. When we say we love integrity, we should prove it while integrity is still alive and returning our calls. So let me end where I began. We say we value integrity until it stops being loud enough for us to notice. Malcolm-Jamal Warner didn't stop being worth our attention. He stopped auditioning for it. The praise we're giving him now is right and late. The best way to fix that timing is simple. Find the people who are moving like this while they're still making choices and stand next to them in daylight. If the industry takes credit later, fine. Let them. You and I will know we didn't wait for permission. And that's what I want to hear from you. Do you think principled refusal really costs a career? Or does it build a different kind of success we're bad at measuring? Why does the loudest celebration so often arrive after someone is gone? Drop your thoughts below. If conversations like this matter to you, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next deep dive. I've got more stories coming about artists who choose the long road and what it takes to walk it. Until then, rest easy, Malcolm. The work speaks. We're finally listening.